We'll go ahead and get started. We're looking at auditing, right? So one of the things that we know about auditing is that not everyone does it. Even the FDA considers it to be optional. But if we are doing it, then we need to make sure that we have a good separation between those tasks and the clinical tasks. We really need to make sure that we're focusing on auditing issues that matter. So we see oftentimes when we go in and audit sponsors or CROs, for example, that have auditing programs, sometimes they're operating at a high level of quality control and maybe not looking at the systems that we would expect for them to be reviewing. So we'll look at quality assurance and how it differs from quality control, and certainly who is responsible for each. We're going to talk, too, about who gets audited and some of the factors and metrics for assessing when or why we would audit. Also look at how the FDA trains its investigators to conduct clinical investigator site audits, IRB audits, and audits of sponsored CROs and monitors. And then look at reviewing recent regulatory noncompliance trends for particularly site sponsors and IRBs. And these we're going to focus on certainly from the FDA perspective, but unfortunately we see that it's not just FDA that has these issues. When we look globally, we're seeing the same systems issues in clinical research and conduct. So we're going to talk about an audit. We're going to use some common definitions that we have, but really think about how we separate these two out. An audit is a systematic and independent examination of trial-related activities and documents. So when we are looking at these activities and these documents, we're really looking at the systems that are generating these. So we have done audits, for example, where at the closeout, where we find poor documentation practices, we're asked, well, just tell us what's missing and we'll go ahead and fill it in. We are concerned about not just getting that information captured, but making sure that it has been done so in real time. That meets those standards for good documentation practices. So it's something certainly monitors are focused on as well. But frequently monitors will go in and ask to make sure that information is complete and forget about it being original and accurate and timely. So we want to make sure that we are focused on those processes that are building into our systems. So we're looking broadly. We're looking at whatever task it is across the board. And if you look at ICH's definition, unfortunately, it kind of sets a timeline for us. And I say unfortunately because we know that we have been struggling with trying to do more real-time audits and in-process audits as opposed to those retrospective. As a matter of fact, I'm out doing a pre-qualification audit now. So we look for building quality and the opportunity to build quality in up front and certainly across the board, and that's really what auditing is. So if you look at that definition, it is retrospective, making sure that things were conducted and data was reported, analyzed, recorded, and accurately reported then in accordance with the guidelines that we have spelled out, which is our protocol, SOPs, those sort of things, however we define that. And that's a great starting point, too, in terms of what are we actually going to be auditing against? What are our standards that we need to assess? So quality assurance is planned. It's systematic. We are looking at what matters and gathering that information. We're looking for compliance, certainly. Again, we would have clearly defined what our expectations are and really the rules of the game, so to speak, in terms of how we will be auditing. But we want to make sure that we are focused and very systematic in our approach. Monitoring, of course, is the act of overseeing the progress of a clinical trial and ensuring that it is conducted, recorded, and reported in accordance with the protocol, SOPs, GCP, and applicable regulatory requirements. So if you look at these definitions, one of the key distinctions you would pull out is that auditing is an in-process, those day-to-day activities. Monitoring is that day-to-day activities in that in-process, whereas auditing is more retrospective in nature. But we know that we are struggling and working really hard towards building that quality in up front, using both quality assurance and quality control to help us meet these end goals. Quality control, of course, again, defined as operational techniques and activities undertaken within the quality assurance system to make sure that we are doing what we're supposed to be doing. So it's important to understand that even though clinical quality assurance and clinical quality control have to remain independent of one another, we have to have communication. As an auditor, when you go out and you find things, you need to share them with individuals and different groups that can actually impact that change.